Do you ever feel trapped by the demands of work, the expectations of others, or the constant noise of modern life? It's as if the world is constantly trying to pull us in a million different directions, leaving us stressed, anxious, and unable to truly be free. I know that feeling all too well. For years, I struggled to find a sense of inner peace and autonomy amidst the chaos. That was, until I discovered the teachings of the ancient Stoic philosophers. These profound thinkers, like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, offered a blueprint for how to move away from the things that bind us and reclaim our freedom. In this video, I'm going to share with you 11 key Stoic principles that can help you do just that. Break free from the constraints holding you back and live a life of true liberation. By the end, I hope you'll be inspired to embrace the Stoic mindset and comment Amor. Fati is the Latin phrase that captures the very essence of our discussion today. So let's dive in. Here are 11 Stoic lessons to help you move away and be free. Lesson 1. Recognize what is within your control. The Stoics understood that true freedom comes from focusing only on what is within our control. As Epictetus famously said, there are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power. The key is to identify the distinction. We cannot control external circumstances, other people's actions, or the inevitable ups and downs of life, but we can control our own thoughts, perceptions, and reactions. By shifting our attention inward and mastering our internal domain, we can find the freedom to navigate any external situation. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." When we free ourselves from the constant desire for more money, more status, more validation from others, we open ourselves up to true abundance. We can be content with what we have and focus our energy on what's truly important. So the first step to moving away and being free is to take stock of your life. Identify the things you cannot control and consciously let them go. Turn your attention inward and commit to mastering your own mind and actions. This is where your true power lies. Lesson 2. Embrace Amor Fati. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the concept of Amor Fati, Latin for love of fate. This means fully embracing and accepting whatever life brings, with gratitude and a sense of purpose. The Stoics understood that we cannot always control the external events that happen to us, but we can control how we respond to them. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By adopting an attitude of Amor Fati, we free ourselves from the burden of trying to fight against the inevitable. We stop wasting energy resisting what is and instead focus on making the most of the hand we've been dealt. This mindset allows us to move through life with a sense of tranquility and even joy, no matter the circumstances. As the Stoic Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we meet life's challenges with equanimity and an appreciation for the lessons they provide, we unlock an incredible source of inner freedom. We are no longer at the mercy of external forces, but masters of our own experience. So the next time you're faced with a setback or obstacle, try to embrace it with Amor Fati. See it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to demonstrate your strength of character. By doing so, you'll free yourself from the bondage of resistance and become the architect of your own destiny. Lesson 3. Practice negative visualization. One of the key Stoic practices is negative visualization, the act of imagining the worst-case scenario and preparing for it. This might sound counterintuitive, but the Stoics believed it was a powerful way to cultivate gratitude, resilience, and freedom. By contemplating the loss of our loved ones, our possessions, or even our own lives, we're forced to confront the true fragility of existence. We realize that nothing in this world is permanent, and that we must make the most of the time and resources we have. As Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When we truly internalize the impermanence of all things, we're liberated from the fear of loss. We stop clinging so tightly to the people and things in our lives, and instead appreciate them with a deeper sense of gratitude. We become less attached to outcomes and more focused on the present moment. Negative visualization also helps us prepare for adversity, so that when challenges inevitably arise, we're not thrown into a state of panic or despair. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By rehearsing difficult scenarios in our minds, we build up our mental and emotional fortitude. We become more adaptable, resourceful, and able to weather any storm. This is the ultimate form of freedom, the freedom to face life's uncertainties with courage and grace. Lesson 4. Cultivate equanimity. Another key Stoic principle is the cultivation of equanimity, a state of calm, unperturbed composure in the face of life's ups and downs. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from being unmoved by the external forces that so often buffet us about. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we can maintain our inner balance amidst the chaos of the world, we free ourselves from the tyranny of our own emotions. We're no longer at the mercy of anxiety, fear, or anger, but can respond to any situation with clarity and wisdom. Equanimity doesn't mean becoming emotionless or detached. Rather, it's about developing the ability to observe our thoughts and feelings with a sense of distance and objectivity. We can acknowledge our emotions without being consumed by them. This takes practice. Of course, the Stoics advocated for regular self-reflection, meditation, and the cultivation of virtues like patience, humility, and self-control. By consistently working on these mental disciplines, we can gradually cultivate the unshakable inner calm that allows us to move through life with a newfound freedom. As the Stoic Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." When we free ourselves from the constant craving for more success, more validation, more pleasure, we open ourselves up to a profound sense of contentment and inner peace. Lesson 5. Focus on what you can control. As we discussed earlier, a fundamental Stoic principle is the recognition that there are things within our control and things outside our control. The key to freedom, then, is to focus our energy and attention on what we can actually influence. This means letting go of worrying about factors beyond our reach, other people's opinions, the weather, the state of the economy, and so on. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." We cannot control the external world, but we can control our own thoughts, perceptions, and responses. By shifting our focus inward, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of worry and frustration that so often traps us. We stop wasting precious mental resources on things we can't change and instead channel our energy into the areas where we can make a real difference. This might mean doubling down on our work, our relationships, or our personal growth. It might mean cultivating greater self-awareness, discipline, and resilience. Whatever it is, the Stoics understood that the path to freedom lies in taking responsibility for our own lives and maximizing our sphere of influence. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we focus on what we can control, we unlock an incredible wellspring of power and autonomy. We become the authors of our own destiny, rather than passive victims of circumstance. Lesson 6. Embrace simplicity. Another key Stoic principle is the embrace of simplicity. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from stripping away the excess and unnecessary in our lives, and focusing only on what truly matters. As Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The more we accumulate material possessions, social status, digital distractions, the more we become burdened and enslaved. We end up constantly chasing the next shiny object, never feeling truly satisfied or at peace. In contrast, the Stoics advocated for a life of voluntary simplicity. They encouraged practices like minimalism, frugality, and the regular mental exercise of negative visualization, imagining the loss of the things we hold dear. By confronting the impermanence of all worldly goods, we free ourselves from the trap of excessive attachment and the constant need to acquire more. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Instead of getting caught up in the endless pursuit of status and luxury, the Stoics urged us to focus on cultivating our own character and virtues. This, they believed, is the true path to freedom. By stripping away the non-essentials and living with intention and purpose, we unlock a sense of lightness and liberation. We're no longer weighed down by the baggage of consumerism and social conditioning, but free to focus on what truly nourishes our souls. Lesson 7. Practice detachment. A closely related Stoic principle is the cultivation of detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent, but rather developing the ability to let go of our intense emotional attachments to people, things, and outcomes. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoics recognized that our suffering often stems not from the external events themselves, but from our own inner resistance to them. When we cling too tightly to our desires and aversions, we end up in a constant state of turmoil. By practicing detachment, we free ourselves from this bondage. We acknowledge the impermanence of all things and cultivate a greater sense of equanimity in the face of life's ups and downs. We can still experience joy, love, and passion, but without the debilitating fear of loss. This doesn't mean becoming completely detached from our emotions or relationships. Rather, it's about finding the right balance, fully engaging with the world, but without becoming overly dependent on any particular outcome. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By embracing detachment, we unlock a profound sense of inner freedom. We're no longer at the mercy of our own cravings and aversions, but can navigate life with a clear, steady mind. We can take action in alignment with our values, without being paralyzed by the fear of failure or the desire for external validation. Lesson 8. Cultivate virtue. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the cultivation of virtue, the development of admirable character traits like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The Stoics believed that true freedom came not from the pursuit of pleasure or the avoidance of pain, but from aligning our actions with what is truly good and right. As Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." By focusing on virtue rather than material wealth or social status, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of wanting and never being satisfied. The Stoics recognized that the path to freedom lies not in chasing external rewards, but in becoming the best version of ourselves. This requires rigorous self-reflection, the cultivation of self-discipline, and an unwavering commitment to our principles. It's a lifelong journey, to be sure, but one that unlocks an unparalleled sense of inner liberation. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By aligning our thoughts and actions with virtue, we free ourselves from the bondage of our own impulses and fears. We become the authors of our own destiny, guided not by the whims of the external world, but by the steady compass of our own moral compass. Cultivating virtue is not easy, but the Stoics believed it to be the surest path to true freedom. It's a journey of constant growth and self-mastery, but one that ultimately allows us to move through life with a profound sense of purpose, autonomy, and inner peace. Lesson 9. Embrace uncertainty. Another key Stoic principle is the embrace of uncertainty. The Stoics recognized that the only constant in life is change, and that trying to cling to a false sense of stability or control is a recipe for suffering. As Epictetus said, "There are things which are within our power, and there are things which are beyond our power." The Stoics understood that we have no control over the vast majority of what happens in the world, the actions of others, the whims of fate, the inevitable cycles of birth and death. By accepting this fundamental truth, we free ourselves from the futile struggle against the inevitable. We stop wasting energy trying to predict and control the unpredictable, and instead focus our efforts on what's truly within our power, our own thoughts, perceptions, and responses. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." When we embrace uncertainty with equanimity and grace, we unlock a profound sense of inner freedom. We're no longer at the mercy of our own fear and anxiety, but can move through life with a deep sense of trust and resilience. This doesn't mean being passive or fatalistic. The Stoics believed in taking deliberate action in alignment with our values, but they recognized that true freedom comes from accepting the limits of our control and focusing our energy on what we can actually influence. By embracing uncertainty, we free ourselves from the bondage of our own expectations and assumptions. We become more adaptable, more open-minded, and more able to navigate the constant flux of existence with wisdom and grace. Lesson 10. Reframe challenges as opportunities. A central Stoic principle is the belief that challenges and adversity are not to be feared, but rather embraced as opportunities for growth and transformation. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoics understood that life is full of ups and downs, trials and tribulations. Rather than seeing these as threats to our happiness and freedom, they encouraged us to reframe them as chances to cultivate our character and expand our capacity for resilience. When faced with an obstacle or setback, the Stoic response is not one of despair or resignation, but of active engagement and curiosity. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By choosing to see challenges as opportunities, we free ourselves from the bondage of fear and open ourselves up to the possibility of transformation. This doesn't mean ignoring or denying the difficulty of our circumstances. The Stoics recognize that life can be harsh and unforgiving, but they believe that our response to these hardships is what truly matters. By meeting adversity with courage, wisdom, and a spirit of growth, we unlock an incredible source of inner freedom. As Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." When we free ourselves from the need to avoid pain and pursue only pleasure, we become more adaptable, resourceful, and able to navigate the full spectrum of the human experience. By reframing challenges as opportunities, we liberate ourselves from the victim mentality and reclaim our power to shape our own destiny. We become the architects of our lives, rather than passive participants at the mercy of circumstance. Lesson 11. Contemplate your mortality. The final Stoic principle I want to share is the practice of contemplating our own mortality. This may sound morbid, but the Stoics saw it as a profoundly liberating exercise. As Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The Stoics recognize that our lives are fleeting, and that the only guarantee is the certainty of death. By confronting this truth, we free ourselves from the illusion of permanence and the endless pursuit of futile goals. When we truly internalize the impermanence of our existence, we begin to see what truly matters. We let go of the trivial concerns and superficial attachments that so often consume us, and instead focus our energy on what's truly important: living with purpose, cultivating virtue, and making the most of the limited time we have. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By contemplating our mortality, we free ourselves from the bondage of our own ego and the endless cycle of craving and aversion. We become more present, more appreciative, and more able to navigate the vicissitudes of life with a sense of equanimity and grace. This practice of memento mori, Latin for "remember that you must die," is not about living in fear or morbidity, but rather about reclaiming our freedom and living with intention. When we confront the reality of our own mortality, we unlock a profound sense of urgency and motivation to make the most of the time we have. By embracing this final Stoic principle, we free ourselves from the illusion of permanence and the trap of endless accumulation. We become the masters of our own destiny, able to move through life with a deep sense of purpose and a profound appreciation for each fleeting moment. By internalizing these lessons and making them a daily practice, we can free ourselves from the constraints and anxieties that so often hold us back. We can move away from the noise and distractions of the external world and tap into an unshakable sense of inner peace and autonomy. As the ancient Stoics understood, freedom is not about escaping our circumstances, but about mastering our own minds and perceptions. It's about aligning our thoughts and actions with what is truly good and virtuous, and refusing to be bound by the whims of fate or the opinions of others. So I invite you to embrace the Stoic mindset and make it your own. Embody the spirit of Amor Fati, the love of fate, and meet each moment, each challenge, each joy and sorrow, with a deep sense of acceptance and purpose. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." By taking control of our thoughts and cultivating the Stoic virtues, we can unlock a profound level of freedom, the freedom to live authentically, to respond wisely to life's ups and downs, and to make a meaningful impact in this world. I hope you'll join me in this Stoic journey, and to capture the essence of our discussion today, I invite you to comment Amor Fati below. May that phrase serve as a reminder to us all to embrace the ebb and flow of life with courage, wisdom, and an unshakable sense of inner liberation.